G'day everyone, Rachel from Bookpiles. Welcome to my wrap up for September. Apologies for not being here for the month of September. I still have technology issues that I've alluded to in the past. I've got it to the point now where I feel like I've got need to buy a new laptop, so things are still a bit sketchy, but I'm going to give this video a go and try and at least get this up. It's going to be a one-take wonder. I have 19 minutes before my camera shuts off, and I won't be able to edit in any pictures at this point in time. I'll try getting it into my editing program, but the last time I did that, nothing would happen. So if there are no pictures, there will definitely be a list of all the books I read in the description below. So without further ado, I'm going to crack on and try not to sidetrack too much. So I did Series September, hosted by Krista at Books and Jams and Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand. And there were 9 prompts. I made a little page for my planner, and you can see I have ticked off all the prompts. I read 10 books. The reason that there are 9 prompts but 10 books is that one prompt is to read a duology and another prompt is to read 2 books in the same series. So I decided, because I was going to take the month of September to do this challenge, I basically didn't need to double up books. I did double up on one book. I gave 2 prompts I gave to one book, if that makes sense. But otherwise, I actually tried to just find a single book per prompt. I am not going to remember. Yeah, 10 books. I'm not going to remember everything about 10 books. I did actually make some cards, but because I still have editing issues, I can't stop and start the video like I would have done, because I would have read my cards and got it back in my head. So it's going to be a skim over what I read. Of the 10, I think 8 are on my Kindle, and I've got 2 physical books to hold up. Otherwise, yeah, I'm afraid that's how it goes. So I will do my best to try and actually remember the names. We'll see how we go. Of the 10, 9 are historicals and 1 is a contemporary too. So the first prompt was to start a series, and for that I read The Duke Goes Down by Sophie Jordan. And his and her names on my little card are Perry and Imogen. This was a fun story, actually. I did read a lot of people didn't think a lot about it, but I don't know, I enjoyed it. It was a fun series, story rather. It centres on Perry it's been found out that Perry was actually born illegitimate before his parents married. So he has been disinherited, well, untitled, and he's lost all his wealth and his estates and everything like that. And his plan is to marry a rich heiress to get him back into the life to which he is accustomed. Butting up against him, quite literally, is Imogen, who is the vicar's daughter, and they have a past as children and they don't like each other. So there's a little bit of hate to love going on initially, and I liked it. It was a fun story. I liked how the hate was, how we were told where the hate came from, and then just how their love story blossomed from there. So it was a nice story, and I look forward to the next book in the series, which I think is not due out until February of next year, from what I remember. Okay, so the second prompt was to read 2 books in the same series, and for that I did The Rogue Files by Sophie Jordan as well. I read books 3 and 4, which were The Duke Buys a Bride and This Scot of Mine. So the Rogue Files so far centre on the family to do with the Duke of Ortonbury, however you pronounce his name, Marcus. I think his name is Marcus. Let's see if I've remembered well. Yep. And in book 1, it starts out with Marcus being knocked out and the girl that thinks she's in love with him actually falling for his half-brother. Book 2 centres on his stepmother and his friend. And then so book 3 is his story, and it quite literally is. He buys a bride. There is some, in this story, there is the practice in a lot of rural communities where women are sold, and he happens upon this market where this is taking place, and he sees her and he's appalled, and he decides he's going to buy her to set her free. But then obviously things happen. And it was quite a fun story. Book 4 centres on his half-sister, Clara, and Hunt, who is a Scottish laird. And we meet him in book 3, but then there is their story in book 4. And their story was quite good as well. I enjoyed that. Lots of misunderstandings and things like that, I think. And a curse that stops them from doing anything serious sort of thing. So, yeah. So that was prompt number 2. Prompt 3 was read your newest series purchase, which I think, at the time I wrote it up, my newest series purchase was the Casanova, by T.L. Swan. So this is a contemporary romance, and it's book 3 in the Miles High Club series. I actually had this is obviously not the Casanova, but I actually purchased book 2, so I had an actual physical copy of it because I had enjoyed it so much. So this is Tristan's story. Book 3 centres on Elliot's story, and actually Kate, and this is also an enemies to lovers. Okay, yeah, okay, so I'll try not to go too far into this. My issue with the Miles High Club initially, because I read the 2 books back to back. So the first book is The Takeover. The second is, the first book is, what is the first book called? The Stopover. And the second book is The Takeover. And I read those back to back on my Kindle, and my issue with them was basically with the sex scenes. Other than changing the names, to me they were identical. So I was concerned about how that would be in book 3. It didn't strike me as much, but then I had a long gap between, a couple of months between books 2 and book 3. What book 3 had that was also in book 1, so we've either got dodgy brothers or again it's just copying the same things. Is the male spying on the woman through the CCTV set up in the office. So in the Casanova, Elliot and Kate don't like each other, and they've never liked each other through the whole working environment, but she's head of her department, she does her job well, and he doesn't have cause to fire her, he just doesn't have to interact with her. But on CCTV, he spies this woman dancing, and he is rather struck by it until she turns around and it's Kate. And then that sends the whole emotional thing, oh, I've never looked at it like that. And then it carries on to their story. What do I remember else about their story? Nothing at this point in time without reading my cards. So I read it, I enjoyed it. The Takeover is still my favourite. Okay, prompt 4 is read a book from a series longer than 5 books. So for this I searched around. my pile of historical romances to see if I could find either a series I already had or some books in a series, and I could get some more. And what I came up with that were longer than 5 was I had this book, The Scoundrel in Her Bed by Lorraine Heath. So I had a look, and this series is bones. I apologise, I'm going to have to leave that in because I can't edit it out. This is a 6-book series, and so I purchased books 1 and 2, and this is book 3, so we'll come to that in a minute. So the first book in the series is called Beyond Scandal and Desire, and this is the series is Sins for All Seasons. Does it say? Yeah, a Sin for All Seasons novel. So that's what the series is called. And it centres on the bastard children raised by a woman in London. So basically all these toffs have illegitimate children, and they want rid of them, and they sell them to... no, they don't sell them. They actually give them to these baby farmers, they're called, and they give them some money. And basically the theory is that these children are basically left to die. It's pretty... as someone who actually comes from a childcare background, I found that aspect of the story quite angering, and sad. Yeah, so I just wanted to punch a few dukes. So book 1 centres on the eldest child, Mick, and a lady, and he basically knows who his father is, and he is hell-bent on revenge. He wants to get revenge on the Duke, and he wants to get revenge on the Duke's heir. And the way he thinks he's going to deal with the heir is to steal the woman that the heir is interested in. So that's the love story. And that's probably all I'm going to say, because otherwise I'm already at 12 minutes and I've got to finish at 19. So prompt 5 and prompt 7, I believe, is what I read. 5 and 9 rather, are the 2 prompts I put onto one book. So prompt 5 is finish a series, and prompt 9 is to read a book from a series started more than a year ago. And for that, I read the last Bridgerton book. I still have the second epilogue novel book thing to do, but I consider I finished the series. On the Way to the Wedding. And this is Geoffrey's, no, not Geoffrey, Gregory's story. Yeah, and I can't remember anything about it other than I liked it. I may, if I can sort this whole technology thing out, I will probably do a video on my thoughts on the Bridgertons. Yeah, I think that's what I will say. So I will just say I ticked off 2 prompts, reading 1 book. Prompt 6 is read the second book in a series, and for that I read the second book in the Sin for All Seasons, which is When a Duke Loves a Woman, and this centres on Mick's sister Gilly and a Duke, and he is attacked outside of the tavern that she owns and runs, and she rescues him basically and looks after him, and then their love story blossoms from there. And yeah, that's what I'm going to say for that. Prompt 7 was to read a duology, and for that I read, I'm not sure if I know what the series is called. If I do, I'll put it in the description. It was a Maya Rodale series, and it's the first time I've read her, and I really enjoyed the series. I liked her writing. So the first book in the pair is The Heir and the Spear, and the second book is The Rogue and the Rival. And this centres on twins, and one is nice and one is not so nice in book 1, and that's probably my only complaint about these books is that somewhere between book 1 and book 2 he became a nice guy, which when you meet him in book 1 seems a little bit far-fetched. So that's probably my only thing. In book 1, if you watched my TBR for this, I was intrigued because it was the twins and one lady. And basically, I don't think I can get all the names, can I? In a hurry. I'm getting Devon and Amelia, and who is the other? Devon and Philip, okay. So Devon is the good guy, Philip is the bad guy of the twins. And Philip does something, gets Devon to stand in his place, and as a result of that, Devon has to go on the run for a while. And he comes back vowing to cause trouble for his twin. And basically he impersonates him, so everyone thinks he is Philip, but in fact he's not. And in his encounter he meets, who is she? Amelia. And she is an American heiress, I think. It centers around her. She is struggling with the way that the brothers treat her, because she's encountering both of them, but she doesn't realize that. So sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not so good, and that gets very confusing. We find out what I liked about the books. I think I'm going to just do an overall, I think, because I'm running out of time. We get the sort of the turn in the story pretty quickly within the first third to a half, and then the story evolves from there, which I really liked. The other thing that I liked about her writing was that her other characters progressed the main story, not their own storylines. So we met a cast of characters, but they all still talked about, it was also done within the main storyline, which I really enjoyed. The Rogue and the Rival is Philip's story, and he is also attacked and brought to a convent where he meets Angela. I think her name is Angela, yeah. And she nurses him back to health, and then it goes from there. And as I say, probably my only thing was how nasty he was in book 1 to how nice he was in book 2. Yeah, anyway. So that was Reader Duology. Oh, we're going okay. And Prompt 8, which is the last one I need to talk about, and I have 2 minutes, is read a book from your most recently started series. So the most recently started series was The Sin for All Seasons. So this is book 3, and this is Finn and Lavinia, or Vivi, Lavinia. Their story, and they meet as young, like teenagers, through a not so nice situation, but he comes back in the dead of night, breaks into her room to show her that he didn't do what he had been asked to do, and it just goes from there. So we get their love story as teenagers, and then it jumps 8 years later when they encounter each other again. What I liked-ish, again, is the flow-through of the series. Lavinia was due to marry the Duke in book 2. So all the little strands weave together. I am loving this series. I think book 2, probably of the 3, is my favourite so far. This one, I got a bit bogged down, annoyed at the timeline jumping in back and forth for the first sort of third or so of the book until they got back to present day. I mean, it was setting the scene and all of that, and which is fine, but I was like, I want now. So yeah, okay, I've got 20 seconds. That is it. I did it. I read 10 books. I really enjoyed discovering my Rodale, and I'm really loving the Sin for All Seasons series, and I finished the Bridgertons, so there we go. Right, I will hopefully catch you in another video soon talking about what I am going to read in October. Until then, have fun reading, and I will catch you later. Bye.